you know. Um, just seeing how much, time and effort and love we put into this story, it's just like you want to, these characters kind of grew, on me. It's and I've said this before. They're like these characters have become essentially like my kids. You've watched them grow, you watch them develop, you watch them, um, get to the point to where we got them to, and all of a sudden it's up. We got to end the story, and then we got to move on to new characters, and it's kind of hard to let go. So
So, for those of you who I don't think I've ever revealed this before in a live stream, and very few people are aware of this, but Mallory is actually named after my real daughter. So that's how uh, that's how connected the characters are to some of our, and there are other names throughout the game that are connected to family members or to close friends or to things like that. So we do carry fragments of our real life into our development.
yeah,
So
but it's also like I said, it's like I said, it's very surreal to me. I don't think it still has kind of sunk in, because I don't want to. I kind of like. I don't want to let go of Chasing Sunsets, but I know I have to a little bit. But I'm still going to do renders of the girls from Chasing Sunsets, just not as often. And because yeah, I got to put my focus on, or we have to put our focus on the new game. But
w-
again, it's
one of the
it,
questions later that Zora will ask deals a little bit with. It'll segue kind of neatly into what you're saying right now,
okay.
because we are talking about saying goodbye to some characters that we put an awful lot of effort into, but it's not really goodbye, right? Not it.
Right.
It never has to be. We're the masters of our own destinies here, and so there's nothing to say that if the interest isn't there, that we couldn't continue down other paths or build other stories around them later. But we'll discuss that in greater depth as we move forward.
Okay.
So are you
Yeah, I'm good to
set,
go.
Zora? Or,
So are we?
all
I'm
right.
assuming you've filled
I,
in some stuff. Where do you need me to start?
I would start at line item 3.
Got it.
And is the video running? Because it just shows Jay and that
Good
they're winning.
call. Yeah, the video isn't running. I'm on top of it. There we go.
Oh, there's our community
There's.
manager. Oh, he left.
Sure, they'll be back. Um, 30-second images with 5-second dissolve on each end, so plenty of time to see the videos and no jarring jumps because I fucking hate those. All right, line item 3. So the industry always seems to be finding new ways to mess with adult content developers. What's been your strategy to avoid problems with platform and payment processors?
Oh, that's we Forrest Gumped our way through it. I've got to say that there's no way to really anticipate what's going to happen. I don't know if it's been a just luck of the draw that we've managed to avoid getting caught up in uh, too many of the purges. We've just like every other adult developer, Itch has unlisted us. So you can still access the work through Itch, but you have to know how to get to the page. We won't come up in their search. So far, that's the only place we've really run into trouble. One of the things that we are certainly doing with Firebreak is we're avoiding the content that tends to get people deplatformed. So we flirted with the ragged edge of incest in Chasing Sunsets, and we won't be doing that um, in Firebreak. But we will supplement with other kinks that, for whatever reason, payment processors don't seem to care much about. So, the only thing I can say is that understand what is driving the behavior of the payment processors. What particular kinks seem to get you deplatformed, and try to have a plan for that. In our case, since it was step siblings, we were able to, and the parents were deceased, we were able to make the case that that's not incest in any state in the United States, and we haven't been forced to defend that, but we've got a full explanation of how it isn't actually incest if you dig into it by U.S. law, and that's really all we've got.
Ready for the next?
So, yeah,
It is,
sure.
okay. What misconceptions do you think you had before beginning to work in this industry?
Do you want to take that first, Kent, or I can take it?
Go ahead and take it, and I got to think about that one.
I think the first misconception I had is that it's easy to make a lot of money at it. That it's easy to break in. That if you build it, they will come. The reality is that marketing is a huge part of success in this industry, and that's something that neither Kentyrr nor I have any real interest in doing. Marketing feels gross to us, and simply having a good and timing is part of it too, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
um, if you got in before a certain date, it was easier to be successful with less quality than it is now. So the biggest misconception for me was that all you have to do is have a really good story or have really good art or or make a good game and people will flock to it. It takes a lot of work to. In fact, the rule of thumb is that if you take 10% of your dev time and put it into sales and marketing, your game will be 100% more successful.
yeah, and I can kind of agree with you on that. I think that was my misconception as well. I think I went into it. I kind of went into it with like an open mind. Like I don't know if this is going to work because I saw artwork out there that I thought was phenomenal, and trying to put my spin on it was kind of daunting to me. It was like kind of scared me a little bit, which I was kind of afraid to step into uh, this universe when Stoya mentioned, "Hey, let's make a game." But thinking that I thought that oh yeah, we could probably make a decent amount of money at this, but again, just like he said, marketing was a big thing, and we did not even do that. And
Uh,
go ahead.
One other call out I would say is it was discovering that other developers are people too, right? Because when we were fans, most VN developers started as fans.
Mhm.
You tend to see the developers as um, uh, almost like a lesser celebrity, or somebody that's kind of up on a pedestal or whatever. And the only pedestal that they're really on is that they're very busy. But other than that, developers are exactly the people that you're in Discord with every day. It's there's nothing special about them other than the fact that they're working on something, and if they're quiet, it's just because they're busy.
Right.
So I, I think that one that pretty much covers the misconceptions, and I guess maybe the amount of work it is outside of actual development.
Oh yeah.
Running down bank accounts, making sure your licensing for music is all lined up. The tax considerations, uh, sending money internationally for translation and animation and all that sort of stuff. The sheer amount of work that is not actually applied to the product that the customer sees was a bit surprising.
Yeah. Never would have thought of that either.
Yeah.
And also what all went into even getting on Steam. The
Oh,
amount the amount of hoops you've got to jump through just to get your game on Steam. Holy shit, was that a pain in the ass?
and what was even harder were the trading cards. My
Oh
God.
my god. Oh god, that don't get me started on that because that was I was so mad at the people at Steam. It was like they give you examples of like what they're what the badges are supposed to be, and the badges were all the same, just a different style of material. Like you would have like a bronze, a silver, a gold, a platinum, and then something, uh, the which is the foil badge, which is the top of the top one you got to get, and it was the same. It was the same, I guess, the same object or same design for all of them. And they're coming, and I made them. We had like ranking badges of like military or whatever, and we had like a 1 star, then a 2 star, then a 2 star with a bar, and then a 2 star with two bars, and it progressed. And I made all that, and they said no, it should be different. It should be different. It should be different. I'm just like, the foil badge looks the same as all the rest. What are you talking about?
And you're referring to the examples they provided because they say this.
Yes.
Here's what you should do, and so we did that, and then they're like, nope.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going by your examples. Like, why are you not approving it?
Yeah. So, well,
Gee.
let's move past this one. We've beaten this one to death.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I went on a rant there. Sorry.
It was my fault. I triggered you.
No, it's all right. It's okay. I needed to get it out anyways.
Yep.
Have you
All
guys
right, what's
ever
next?
talked about what you would do if you hit it really big?
Of course. I mean, it's you always wonder what if, right? But our running joke is that we would build a porn a digital porn development studio out in the middle of nowhere, buy an abandoned missile silo
Yep.
and
Renovate
build a
it.
server farm in there and a GPU farm and just sit in there and build porn all day. But that's all pie in the sky stuff. For now, it's just nice to be able to take my wife out to dinner a couple of extra times a month.
Yeah. That was the running gag.
And we'd bring in other devs too, right? Because there are other devs
Oh yeah.
that are so we joked that Puggy would have a role there, and Zor and our Discord moderators and whatnot. But in any case, we're a long way from DPC money, so for now,
Yeah.
that's pie in the sky.
Would be cool though.
Wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, exactly. Have our own little, like, small little runway for planes. Just fly
For,
in.
for ultralight. Yeah,
Yeah,
but for
exactly.
now, we did hit it big enough for Kent to do this mostly full time. I mean, it's not as comfortable as we would like, but
Right.
he's able to do art full time now. He doesn't have to split it with a day job. I'm not there yet, so I still split my dev time and my day job.
Yeah, that's I was let go from my day job last year. It's been a year. But yeah, it sucks losing that income, and I just have to watch kind of like my finances, doing this or no full time. And that's what, like, CKR just said in the chat, is that I have to eat ramen. I've got a whole big box of ramen.
Yeah, that was like
Wait.
I flew down to visit Kent for the first time not too long ago, and we went to Costco just to get ramen.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we got. And a TV.
Yep.
What a TV for my mom.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, it is really tough, Zerus. I mean, but the thing about it was, I mean, I loved working where I was at. I had no plans of leaving unless if this really did take off. So, um, but yeah, the market was just, taking a downturn, and they had to let me go. But oh well, just gotta tighten the belt and keep pushing ahead.
All right. What's next?
What changes have you seen in the industry with competing titles since you started developing in this space?
Oh, I'll take this one for me. I've
Sure.
seen a lot of new developers come out and their art style is phenomenal. Just right out the box. And I'm like, how the hell are these guys coming out with some of this artwork that's blowing me away? So I've talked with these devs and I really enjoy talking to them. They're good dudes. Um and it was kind of humbling to see that they took um inspiration from me, and I try to help out other devs because I like people to succeed in this space. And just by seeing what's coming out, well, what they're putting out is making me step up my game. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta do some better artwork now because these guys are giving me a run for my money.
I'd
So
just echo that. I think the production quality of titles that have started to be successful. Um, so in our day, when we first came out, Chasing Sunsets was. I'm not saying that there weren't other titles out there that had really good production values. Being a Dick was obviously a huge leader, but for the most part, there was a lot of there was a lot of very basic VNs coming out when we launched, so it wasn't hard to raise the bar, and so that's happened to us in 5 years. People have they took the new bar and they raised it further, and so we have to compensate in the art and in the features and in the game and the animations and whatnot. One other thing that I would say that I've seen change quite a bit is the introduction of a lot of AI, and that's super polarizing because people have an eye for it; they can see it right away, and they either absolutely freaking hate it, and it ruins the entire game for them, and they're that anathematic to it, and then there are others who it doesn't seem to bother. But that's what I've noticed.
yeah, and a lot of the newer devs, even just the devs when we started. Okay, so when we started, it was like Wilson Wonka, Stu. Who else was out there that we were discussing? Drifty. Um,
Did you get started a little after us?
did you guys started a little bit after us? Um, and then like right as we probably like middle development, I started meeting some of the new guys, Cool Kitty Rhymes, Batman, just Light. I mean, all these guys that are in chat right now. um and I just started talking with them, and I mean, they are some of the nicest developers I have ever met. I mean, we pretty much talk on a daily basis. And um it's just, I'm happy to see that these guys are pushing the limits of their stories and their artwork. And it's great that we all kind of share ideas to each one of us can get better. And that's and then that was another thing that was really strange when we first started, because there really wasn't a lot of people that were willing to help. When I first started, Philly gave me Philly Games of City of Broken Dreamers and Depraved Awakenings. He gave me advice, but he kind of just he didn't hold my hand. He kind of just told me, do this, and get this, and just play around with it. Learn it, and you'll get better at it. I would ask for advice on certain lighting techniques, and then he would be like, "Here, try this," and then let me run with it. And so that's yeah, that's another thing. Like just said, about clipping. That's one thing you will get as a developer. You will notice clipping in everything that you watch or play now. It's a curse. But I digress. But yeah, it's so these guys are really you know pushing me, and I'm pushing them, and that's a big thing to me. And do I have to add to that? No. Do you have want anything to add, Stoya?
Nope. Ready for the next one.
Okay.
You have a favorite type of fan, a least favorite.
Um, my favorite type of fan is the one that reads between the lines. As a story writer, there's a lot of subtext and FAP games aren't exactly known for going in and reading each line closely. Most people are banging through it until they get to the lewd scenes, and
Mhm.
they just want enough context to inform the lewd scene. But my favorite kind of fan is the one that says, "Hey, how does this work if so and so did this, but felt this way back in chapter 2 or whatever?" It's the one that is actually invested enough to under, or the one that does spot the subtext and understands it for what it is. So that's my personal favorite. The one that I can't stand is the one that um, offers critique without um, a suggestion to improve. You know,
Yeah.
there are people that'll just go out, throw up 1 star in a one-line review, and there's no, what could you have done better? And I think that's pretty standard. Nobody that's in the creative space likes feedback that doesn't offer a path to improvement.
Yeah, for me, it's more of like the people that come in and they say that line, came for the lewds, stayed for the story. And that's the type of, VN that I wanted to make. I wanted to make a story rich, you know, game so people can read it and enjoy the artwork that goes along with it and the lewds that go along with it. That's my favorite type. And my least favorite is just like how Stoya said, it's the 1 star reviews, one line, don't even offer any kind of critique. Not enough sex, 1 star. It's just like, really? Okay. That doesn't help us. So,
Ooh, the next one's for Kent.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. What is the
uh-oh.
weirdest custom render anyone has ever asked for from you, Kent?
Oh, I got that one right off. I already know which one this is. And probably this person probably asked this question because they know of it. Well, I had a custom render of a patron wanted uh, a certain scene, and he wanted the MC to ejaculate while he was getting a hand job. But the ejaculate was to be about 4 to 5 feet high,
Vertical.
vertical. I was, I was like, okay, this is brand new for me. I'm willing to give it a shot, but yeah,
Literally.
yeah, literally. And if he's in here, this is not a thing against him. It was just like, okay, that was something totally off the wall. I've never even heard of this before. And sure enough, yeah, I made it and I gave him, I offered him like 3 or 4 different camera angles. So yeah, that was probably the weirdest or request for a custom that I've ever received. There were some from DeviantArt. They asked for characters getting like smothered with a pillow, and I was yeah. I did. Did I ever tell you about that one? Um,
No.
yeah, he was just like, oh yeah, it's just, can you make a render of this character smothering the other one and like so with a pillow and showing it from their feet? I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna answer this one. So yeah,
So
that
for
was the
anybody listening, you're getting a glimpse into what the extent of our kinks are. I mean, there are places that we're not going to go easily.
yeah. Yeah, and if you ever want a custom, and like I said, we have to discuss what it is, but there's certain things I will not do.
Yeah.
But obviously, I guess a 4 foot cum shot is one I would do, I guess.
Yep. That was pretty awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one.
A lot of games never make it to completion. What do you think was the secret to getting across the finish line?
Well, I personally feel an awful lot of pressure when there's fan investment. People want to see what comes next. When they want to see what comes next, then you realize that you've let this cat out of the bag. You got to see it through. Um, so I think Kent and I both operate. We thrive on that pressure. It's the and we watch timelines very, very closely, and so I know from a fan's perspective, months go by and you don't hear anything meaningful about the game's development, and you're like, are they still working on it even? But um, I mean, every day that ticks by, we feel that sand in the hourglass, and so and I think being able to thrive on that pressure is how you make it to completion. Um, and the caveat to that is the only way you're going to thrive on that pressure is to make a completable game. Um, I've said before that Milky City, for example, I think the dev painted himself into a corner with that one, with all of the different pregnancy options with the characters at the end. He got to the point to where there were I think 7 possible character pregnancies. Well, if you look at um, how many possible uh, elements of art would be necessary to render all of those different girls in different states of pregnancy, you painted yourself into a development corner, and there's no way you're ever going to be able to make enough art to satisfy all of those potentials, as long as they're static art and you're not simply overlaying the pregnant or non-pregnant model onto a background. So for me, it was making a completable game and thriving on the pressure to complete.
For me, it was how can I put this? I really tried for me, it was like the pacing of it. A lot of at first I thought I need to pump out as many renders as I can in a day. And when I started doing that, I started to feel kind of burnt out. And I think that's what a lot of new devs do. It's not a bad thing if they can do it. If they can work under that pressure and knock out 100 renders in a day, cool, do it. But then I started set a limit for myself to between like 15 to 20 renders a day, just so I don't work on the weekends. I don't work on the game on the weekends because those are my days off, and that way I have a life outside of the game, and I can kind of regroup, decompress, and go from there. And that's why I think pushes towards a successful game is don't overdo it. To me, or for me, the is just to pace yourself and know what you're getting into, and don't get into this space thinking that you're going to make a shit ton of money right off the bat. Because that's another thing. A lot of people get into it and they're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a lot of money, and they do it, and then they realize the scope of a project like this, and then they quit. And it's just like they don't want it. They don't want that. So it's also a mindset too.
That's fair. Just to put some raw numbers behind it, Chasing Sunsets has nearly 20,000 individual still renders in it. Think about that for a minute, and how long. Granted, sometimes the changes between renders are subtle; they're just minor facial expression changes or whatever. But uh, ask yourself, how long would it take you to make 20,000 individual renders? And for most people, the answer comes down to around 4 or 5 years, if they're working on it pretty consistently. So yeah, that's a big one, is understanding the scope of what you're taking on, because no matter how efficient you think you're going to be, it's always going to be more work than you thought it was.
Yeah.
So.
And that's another thing is you can feel like if you have a schedule, like you want to take a development time of 3 months and getting out a chapter. Well, as you start progressing into your game, it's gonna get longer and longer because then you have to deal with branching issues. Then you got to make more art, and then you got to focus on each individual character that you need to use that branch for. So knowing the scope of your project is a big thing. So
As we go into a project that we don't have a scope on.
yeah, exactly. So we're just like, yeah, we'll do it as long as we can.
Hey, Zor, I think we can probably skip 10 because we kind of alluded to it with when we were talking about competing titles and line item 6.
You got
So
it, boss.
we can just hop straight into the Q&A from the dev chats.
Sounds good. All right.
All right.
So do we, out of curiosity, why is there no from on these like first 10?
Those were inserted by us.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So with Chasing Sunsets for the most part complete, are you putting it in the review, or do you plan to come back to those characters at some point?
So yeah, I did talk about this a little bit at the beginning. For those of you who don't know, there's a tremendous amount of content that Kent has made on the side that isn't in the game. We love the characters from Chasing Sunsets. Jay and Bianca and um, Ricky and Lisa, of course. There are a lot of beautiful and well fleshed out characters from Chasing Sunsets, and we may come back to them at some point. We do still plan to get the bug fix and the remaster for Chasing Sunsets out at some point, where the first chapter or two are updated to the state of the art, and some of the animations are hopefully fixed and whatnot. So the game itself will come full circle. You will import the world state from Chasing Sunsets into Firebreak. So not every variable from Chasing Sunsets matters. You will have the option to play Firebreak clean, where you just answer some questions, and or you can randomize what the world state is at the beginning. But the choices from some of the choices in Chasing Sunsets will matter in Firebreak.
Did you have anything to say on that, Ken?
Oh no.
The only reason I asked was this one's targeted to both, so if you had a thought, I want to make sure you got it. Next question to both of you as well. What prompted you to add a community manager to the team after several years without one?
Go ahead, Kent.
Well, that was probably a decision that we made probably midway, or not near the end of Chasing Sunsets. Is that we didn't feel like we marketed the game well enough. So I mean, we tried to at first, but then it just kind of fell to the wayside. So we said, okay, we have to market our next game better. We have to do better on this. We have to, keep people engaged, keep people talking about it, keep people engaged into the community. So that's when we decided to bring on a community manager to help us with that, and he will also push us to do better as well. We would have meetings like every week, and to be like, okay, what's the update? What do we got to do here? What's the plan? How could he share information with our outreach to everybody, and be like, this is what's going on in the world of Stone Fox Studios. Yeah.
For me, it was the realization that Discord just isn't enough, right? We have our socials, but when we get heads down on development, we can feel that connection with the community slipping as we focus on just getting content out. And so we wanted to figure out how to patch that hole. And so that's exactly what we did. We just brought in a third member. It's been a challenge for us because in the United States, you can have a partnership, but as soon as you add a third employee to a company, all the tax things change. You have to move from a partnership LLC to an actual LLC. You have to have a payroll. There's all sorts of things that you have to do, as if the business management isn't already daunting enough for a partnership. And so that's one of the reasons we resisted. But we finally got to the point to where we were like, nope, we can't leave people hanging. We can't attempt to continue our outreach only through Discord. We need somebody that's got their eyes on all of the feedback coming in on all of our storefronts in Steam. If we aren't making content updates often enough, we need somebody to kick us in the ass.
Yeah.
That was it.
All righty. Next question also to both of you. Have you had any surprises since beginning game development where random people recognized your work?
Well, Kent had one recently.
I've actually, I've actually met people here where I live. The A small little story. At my apartment complex, I think they were doing pest control or something like that, and the guy was walking through, and he, was doing spraying the rooms or whatever like that, and he saw my development rig, and he just asked me about it. He goes, "Oh man, that's an impressive rig or whatever," and I'm just like, "Oh yeah, it's just for like a game I develop." And he's like, "Oh, you make a game?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's on Steam or whatever." And he starts pulling out his phone. He goes, "Oh, really? What is it?" And I tell him the name. He puts his phone away immediately and says, "I know that game." And he was kind of like awestruck, and I was like, okay, I met a fan of our game in real life." And so yeah, that was kind of cool.
I'll go in an
So
opposite direction with that. There are times where, like, I was at the airport when a year ago, and the theme song from our menu, "Blame It on the Heart," was playing on the airport speakers, and
oh,
that
that's
was
cool.
surreal. And it turned out to be a an advertisement for another product, but since it's free use music or licensed music for advertisements, it occurred to me that people that are selling other things besides porn games are going to the same sources for music and other things that we do. And so it's probably the third time I've heard a title, a track on our game played outside of our game, and so that's always been kind of weird.
Yeah, that is. I said, did I have another one? Was there another one that um oh, no, 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 no. When you were here, when we left Whataburger.
Oh yes, yes,
Okay, so we were late night. We just got done. Went to out to a club with one of my friends or whatever, and were just hungry, so we stopped at Whataburger, which is a burger place. It's a 24-hour burger joint, and so there weren't like a lot of people in there. There's maybe like a group of younger people in there. Maybe like what was it, like four or five of them,
yeah.
and so the guy comes out with the order, and he's like, order for Jay or whatever like that, and the guy raised his hand or whatever, and we thought nothing of it. And so as Story and I get done, we walk out and we see this car that's kind of backed up toward the front of Whataburger, and the license plate was JAYE. Jay from our game. So it was this dude's car, but it was how it was spelled
His
exactly.
customized license plate, yeah,
His
was
customized
J.
license plate was Jay, like Jay from the game. So that was. So it was just like, take a picture, and I'm like, no, like if I take the picture, he's gonna come out and say like, what the fuck you taking a picture of my car for or whatever. And I was like, I'm not gonna even do it. But it was so funny.
Yep, that was kind of funny.
Hmm.
All right.
If you knew when you started what you know now, would you have done anything differently with either your workflow, game design, story, or art?
That's yes. I think I would have I would have tempered the delivery expectations off the bat, because when we started, we were thinking that we could do a chapter every 90 days. And we were successful with chapter 1, but by the time we got to chapter 2, we're like, okay, that goes back to Kent's talk on burning out. And I could feel it too. If it was all we were doing, and this is during COVID, so neither one of us were going into the office at that point. We were both gainfully employed outside of the job, but or outside of the game. But yeah, I definitely would have tempered expectations. The second thing I would have done is, when I started coding, I knew nothing about Python. I knew nothing about RenPy, and so I made a number of design decisions that made our game very difficult to translate. It's hard to just put a TL file in there and call it good. I won't make that mistake again. I'm not going to go off the reservation with any of my coding or anything else that makes translation or modding difficult. And then that would be the last thing. When I first started, I was like, I don't want people modding the game. I'm going to make all of my variables difficult to understand, and I'm just going to keep a local spreadsheet of what those variables mean. Yeah, nope. Whatever intent I had with that, it absolutely failed. People figured out what the variables were anyway, and now the only people that it creates headaches for are the proofreaders and the beta testers. So going forward, I will make my variables very easy to understand.
For me, I'm not sure how I would do things differently. I mean, doing art is kind of like it's a process. It's you learn as you go, pretty much, and you can see the art evolving uh, from the prologue all the way through the game. And I think what I would have done differently is maybe done a little bit more research on the ins and outs of Daz, because I still don't know everything there is to know about the program. There's things I don't even use in the thing, and I don't think I'm not scared to learn more stuff about it. It's just it works for what I want it to do for me right now. I'm sure that if I really did a deep dive when I was starting, it probably would have been a lot different. Or the art would have probably been a little bit better, maybe, I guess. But that's what I would have done differently. Is just maybe spent a little bit more time learning the ins and outs of the program and doing more looking at stuff online and trying to get a better understanding of how this program works. Because Cool Kitty just said it right. It said blame the documentation. There's hardly anything on the program. So just pretty much do it as you go, learn as you go.
I will say RenPy is a lot better in that regard. Even though the documentation isn't particularly great for it, the community is fantastic. So for those of you who don't know, there is a RenPy Discord channel, and RenPy Tom, the developer of the actual platform, lives in there. And you can find answers to just about everything that you could possibly need to know, just by doing a historical search of that Discord channel. So um, that's one tidbit I would give to any aspiring developers is, join the RenPy channel if that's the platform you intend to use, and even if you never say anything, you just lurk there. There's so much information to be had.
Yeah, and from what Elaine said, have I experimented in Blender? Yes, I have dabbled in it. I haven't done a deep dive into it because it is a huge learning curve and it's a big time constraint, I would have to dedicate everything in my power to learn Blender and whatnot. I mean, I do have, like I said, I have a little bit of shortcut keys and stuff like that. I know a little bit about them. I can manage the space. I can make a donut. I think the the most popular thing on YouTube is to do is just create those donuts. But I just got like I guess a basic gray mold of one, but that's all I've done in Blender.
All right.
All right, next up. What drives you nuts about working with Stoya? What doesn't, Kent?
There's not really that much that drives me nuts about him, but when he comes to me and says, "I've had a shower thought," that's when I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go. There's where something's gonna go totally off the wall here."
I think I hopped in chat one time when you guys were in the middle of one of those. That was funny.
Yeah, it's Stoya gets these shower thoughts, and it's not that I don't want to do them. It's just the lack of assets that are out there. It's like I don't think there is one out there, so then I have to do a search for one, and then I got to try to put it all together or kit bash it together and whatnot. So yeah, those
Just
are
to
the
give you
things.
guys an example, things that you would think that there are assets for that there really aren't, or that have since come out since we've needed them but weren't there when we did,
Mhm.
are just the most basic things you can imagine. Parachutes, parachute packs, skydiving outfits, lab coats, snowballs. Yes, the M&Ms, the chip snack bags that have been opened. You can find snacks that are closed for convenience stores, but try to find one that's open. I fucking dare you. It's absolutely crazy how random the everyday things that you would think there would be assets for there aren't.
Yeah, and it's just like case in point, the snowballs. Like I had to make basically I just made an orb, a sphere in Daz, and just when the MC and Mallory were having their snowball fight, and like 2 weeks later, oh look, what's on the Daz store? Snowball fights. Just like what? Where did this come from? And it's just like why did last? And then there was one where at the end of the epilogue where the MC's by himself and he's like backpacking or whatever like that. So I had to use like a tactical backpack, for him. And then like just I saw last week there was like a hiker's backpack that just came out. I'm like, ugh, come on. Like
Sid's
what
got
the
it right. Batman's got it right. The asset you need always comes out 3 weeks after you needed it.
yeah.
You've released with something substandard. The rapey van from or the you jump on an asset that you want to feature in your game, and 3 other games come out using that asset the week before yours does. You're like,
Yep.
I can't use it now.
Yep, exactly. Like, oh
So,
shit, or it's like we got to change the scene now.
yep. And I'm sorry for the shower thoughts, Kent, but
No, it's good. I don't
uh,
mind it. I'm just giving you shit about it. But
yeah.
it's just like it's just crazy, when I see you DM me. I've had a shower thought. I'm just like, oh shit, here we go. And just like what I think it was Zero said, it's just like it's your kinks, playing to it.
Yeah. Yep.
Like quarters coming out of a vagina. Like seriously?
No, come on. Have I ever led you astray? Has there ever been a massive backlash over one of those?
No, but there was sometimes where I tell you to, scale it back,
That's fair. That's fair. Anyway,
So, Stoya, same question. What do you dislike about working with yourself? No, I'm kidding. What do you dislike and like about working with Kent?
So I'll start with what I like. Kent's work ethic is insane. If I throw a bunch of dialogue at him, like if I go on a trip, if I'm going to be gone for a week, I've got to front load him with a week's worth of dialogue. Otherwise, he's going to sit there spinning his thumbs. I never have to light a fire under him. I never have to say, damn it, Kent, make the art come faster. If anything, I'm trying to tinker on the game engine and dialogue. He runs out of dialogue while I'm in the middle of it. I'm like, oh shit, I got to write him more dialogue. So I love the work ethic. Um, if there's anything that drives me nuts, it's
Said he won't do
his.
your shower thoughts.
No, he does. He always. First
He
rule of Fight
forces me.
Club is Travis always wins. In any case, the thing that drives me nuts the most, I would say, is that the things that are the bread and butter of lewd games are the exact space that Kent hates to work in. Low light scenes, wet water scenes. The anything with a wetness asset applied, so that and it's not that he can't do it; it's that Daz makes it challenging to get to look the way he wants it to.
Yeah.
So as a result, he resists whenever I'm like, "Hey, this really does need to be a low light scene." Like, okay, well, if you want
Yep.
6-hour render times,
Yep.
you know,
I give him shit. I complain about him, and I'm sorry that I do, but it's
I
it's
understand why you do though. It's not that I'm. And then Kent is. I know that if he ever mastered animation, he would be as good at it as he is at the still scenes and the expression scenes. And and I'm constantly challenging him to break into that. But I understand why, you know, the resistance is there, and so it's just one of those things where we'll take it a day at a time.
Yep.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
You posted recently that you both met in person for the first time recently. Were there any surprises?
I don't really think I was surprised. I mean, I think we'd seen photos of each other over the years.
Yeah.
Naked
You know,
ones.
no, 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 no. Well, maybe, but we've been, I guess, work spouses for so long that there really wasn't anything to be surprised about.
Yeah.
Um,
There
I,
really
I
wasn't.
I was surprised this Honda didn't say or it didn't make the "I'm gay" sound when it accelerated, but that was about it.
Asshole. Gives me shit about my car.
I do.
I get better mileage than his car, though.
Yeah, it does.
No, we did not kiss, but we did hug.
There was a head pat involved.
Yes. Shook hands.
What the fuck was that I
Yep.
heard the other day? It's homosexual. It's totally not gay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. What feels different about starting a second game with the experience of a successful game behind you?
Well, I think the first time we didn't know what we didn't know,
Right.
and now we know what we're getting into, and we see where we're challenging ourselves. Like we're building a game that has a lot more love interest in it, right? And so one of the things that made Chasing Sunsets successful was that even though there were only two full-fledged love interests, they were so well developed that people felt like they knew them. Now, other games that have had more love interests have been successful in creating, to a greater or to a lesser degree, a similar feeling, like Being a Dick. The love interests in that all feel pretty well developed. You understand who they are and kind of what motivates them, and Eternum is the same way, right? You get a really good feel for all of the love interests. So other devs have found a way to make that balance. That's what feels different to me. Is we're starting with 8 blank slates, and a couple of characters that we've already introduced, so we know what their personalities are, and now now we know how, as the characters develop, they take on a life of their own. It's just, what life do we want to give them?
Right.
What is their final, what is their final Super Saiyan form? Well, and so now we know that that's going to develop, and we can start guiding that earlier, I think.
Yeah, I would have to agree with all that. Next.
What do you see as the biggest challenge in surpassing CS with your second effort on both the technical level and with the story?
Ugh.
Oh, I think that kind of plays like together. Creating characters that look good and are well written as well. Um, I got in my head. A lot of people love certain characters from Chasing Sunsets, and it gets in my head like, can I make characters that can rival those characters? So that's the challenge for me. Is can I make characters that are look good as the characters from Chasing Sunsets? Um, I'm not sure if a case in point, Jay has been my most heavily modified character. She has gone through 28 iterations, 28 versions. Um, whether it be like simple changes to a matte on her, like her lip texture, or changes of her arm length, or what. But she has been kind of like my template, I guess, for future characters. Like, I know what I did with her, I know what the steps I need to take, so now I can make characters that can have the same setup as Jay, but just I can make them look different. But if I can make that happen, that should be that should be good for the next game. So I hope that the characters that I make in the second game would would again be up to par with the girls from Chasing Sunsets.
For my part, the technical side, it's the challenge is simplifying the technical back end while maintaining the production values, having the nice looking menus and the slick user interface, all the bells and whistles, but not in a way that causes issues from a modding or translation perspective. Um, so on the technical side, that's the biggest part for me. The story side, so Firebreak was conceptualized with the idea that that most players don't have the patience for a slow burn, right? These are lewd games. There's an expectation that there's a certain amount of sex and heat in them. How do you deliver that without taking 6 chapters to finally end up at the bungalow and busting that cherry? And so I put a lot of thought into story modularizing the story, um, creating a way to suspend disbelief on character behavior, so that because at the end of the day, porn logic is glaringly evident to all of us, and as soon as you see somebody use the trope where mom has no interest in son until he walks out of the shower and she sees um his enormous penis, and then all of a sudden she's cock thirsty 24/7. That's the kind of those are the sorts of tropes I want to avoid falling into. And so I put a lot of thought into how do we get there in a way that's believable, and in a way that people won't reject it as just not realistic, but also to give us enough runway to develop the characters' personalities and make them interesting and worth, because the lewd element of it that's the reward for really beginning to understand the character that you're interacting with, right? If the sex is zero effort, the reward is zero effort, and so or the reward has very little impact. Um, Ideally, there should be a feeling of accomplishment in getting to that point.
Wibble actually mentioned something in chat that's actually a really good point. He said you can do early sex, but just don't make it mandatory. So some players prefer a slow burn and hate the gratuitous early sex.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
definitely a good point.
Yep, for sure.
Agency is a good thing.
It absolutely is.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
How do you deal with criticism and feedback? Do you ever find it distracting or demoralizing?
Sure. So there's you develop a thicker skin as a developer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's criticism that absolutely has zero impact. Um, you know, if it's ignorant, a lot of times, you know, if feedback is intended to be hurtful, but there's ignorance behind it, it's super easy to dismiss, right? You know, maybe someday when you actually have sex with a real live girl, your opinion on that will matter, right? But on the
Yeah.
other hand, on the other hand, you know, there are chinks in the armor. There are people who clearly know what they're talking about, who take exception with the way something was handled, or they think that it was malicious when it wasn't, or they read the wrong. They take the wrong conclusion from the way something came out, and that's a little demoralizing sometimes because, you know, I know that's not how I was thinking about it when I wrote it. I know that's not
Right.
the way Kent was visualizing it when he rendered it. So how did we get it wrong? So
Right.
that can be a little bit demoralizing if we miss the point we were trying to make, and enough people take it the wrong way. That can be demoralizing.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that because sometimes we would see something like that, and I would just be totally confused of like how did they come to this conclusion? Like where's their head at? And it's just like did we miss something or what? So that was very like Stoya said, it's demoralizing. It's just like why? Where is this coming from? What
Uh,
did we miss?
I'll tie this actually back to you know, there was a time when I was a huge Being a Dick fan, and I was on that server, and one of my favorite pastimes was bashing Jill, right? And so I know Jill's very popular with a lot of players, and um,
Me.
yeah. Uh, and you know, to his credit, this is back when DPC was interacting with his community a lot more because he frankly was, you know, he had time back then. But I never really thought about how the things I was saying might have impacted him. And now I'm in a position to know. And a case in point would be Terra in particular. There is a small but vocal subset of people that think she's like literally the worst person ever written into you know, as a not from the character design perspective, but her behavior makes her reprehensible. And you know, that certainly uh, she was intended to be a complex character, but she was never intended to be, you know, a monster or to have entirely ugly motivations. People are complicated and they do things for complicated reasons, and that was her intent. She was supposed to be a complicated character that did the wrong thing for the right reason mostly, and that was the intended takeaway. But there are certainly people that don't take it that way at all, and you know, and it's like, wow, how did we frame her in a way that would make her the monster you think she is?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yep.
All right, what do we got up next? How do you deal with? Oh no, this is one. You said Firebreak is going to be more lewd in general than Chasing Sunsets. Do you worry that will alienate fans who are drawn to more emotional elements of your previous game? What does more lewd even mean in this context? More kinks, more scenes, edgier content, or more porn logic?
I think the easiest way to answer that is simply the variety of love interests, right? So that's going to give us the opportunity to explore some more kinks. It's going to give us the opportunity um, to create some situations that were much more difficult to do because Chasing Sunsets had a very traditional setting in the sense that you're surrounded by people that are going to freak out if they see a brother and sister going at it on the deck. You're probably not going to you're probably not going to be flashing tit in a courtroom. There there were we were very limited in the setting on some of the things that we could really explore. Firebreak gives us a lot more opportunity to let it all hang out. Now, as far as more kinks, yeah, probably, but also less kinks in other ways. Like I said, we're there won't be an incest angle here. Um, we're going to make a specific effort to avoid non-con or any of the things that are going to get you in trouble with your hosting platforms. But most of the other stuff, I think we're going to see what we can do with it. And some girls are going to be a lot more kinky than other girls. Some will be more vanilla. We have a bigger number to experiment with, and I think it gives us an opportunity to do something uh, to appeal to a lot broader of an audience. And yes, edgier.
Anything to add, Kent?
Nope. That was more like all Stoya right there.
Fair enough. Yeah, that was geared towards Stoya. That's totally fair. But this one's for you, Kent, so buckle up, Buttercup. How
Yay.
often does the story demand you find creative ways to deliver the visuals because the necessary props just aren't out there, which kind of was covered like 15 minutes ago?
Yeah. So basically, what comes down to that, it's more of Stoya and I work really well on those situations because he can have a vision and say like, okay, we have this, and then I try to put it together and I look for an asset and it's not there, and then he says, okay, make the scene, I'll rewrite the dialogue to make it fit, and sure enough, we're fine and we're good, and we just continue on. And but if there are certain things like like we need um case in point, an open bag of chips, you know, there we found an asset. It was an older asset. We found one that was like it was closed and then opened. So what I did was I created a new material for the bag that needs to be for that scene.
I'm going to drop that
I
in the chat. There's no reason why I shouldn't, right? Because there's no context for it.
No.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. I'll give you an example.
Okay. So what he's going to post in the chat is like what we were working with. Um, so it was again, I just kind of put it together. I went into Chat GPT and I just said, okay, I need a logo of some sort just to make something more modern or whatever. And I created my own brand of trail mix. And then I went to Photoshop, pasted it over the mat of the old asset, and then made an open bag of trail mix. And done. And right there, there's what I made in chat. So that's an open bag of trail mix that I made. So yeah, there was no trail mix assets out there, so I had to make my own. So.
All right. And now we're getting into the questions from the dev live stream. So these are the ones that fans have asked.
Okay.
All right. And they're pretty much all to both, two at the end, and it's split 50-50. All right. This is from Lightfellow. I've talked to Ken a lot already, but I'm still curious. How do you guys make your characters? Kent has said numerous times that Jay is essentially his perfect woman. So, is it him making characters and then Stoya fitting them into the story? Does Stoya tell Kent what kind of characters he needs for anything specific? Or is it a collaborative effort with both of you pitching your ideas in? I know what the answer most likely is, but I just want to hear you two discuss these processes, as you are two of the devs I respect the most.
You want to take
I
point on that, Kent?
I think it's a little bit of both. Sometimes I can create a character, and then Stoya can look at the character and be like, I know what she's like, and here, let me write something out for her, and he would present it to me, and I can be like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that in her character. I can see that that's who she's shaping up to be. When we first made Chasing Sunsets, I had a different model for Mallory. But then, as he was telling me her backstory, or not her backstory, but her personality, the character model didn't fit. So I had to completely remake her, because that just didn't feel like that was her look or whatever like that. And that's when I went and made the new Mallory. So, like I said, it's more of like a collaborative thing. But sometimes I just make characters, and then he kind of comes in and says, "Okay, I can work with this. I can see let me see what I can do here."
I'll talk a little bit about the Firebreak characters and how we're building those currently. So Kent has been creating new girls throughout the development of Chasing Sunsets. Some of them got used in CS, and some of them we reserved for Firebreak. And so a lot of them were released in silhouette, or from a distance they were kind of hard to see. Most of them have undergone changes since the initial release of their introductory images, but in general, we started Firebreak with 7 or 8 female models that have been developed over the course of a few years, and as we start building them and creating the preview images for them, um, I develop a backstory for each of those characters as we're looking at them. So you saw Akshaya is an Air Force colonel, or a Space Force colonel, sorry, um, and so I've already envisioned her personality to be more disciplined, more she's got that military background. She's got that leadership quality, kind of a little bit more similar to Lisa personality wise, probably, as we'll see. A little bit more no nonsense. And then we see um, each of the other girls, as we put up their preview image, we determine what their role is going to be in the game, and then we start building a backstory around them. The character develops from that backstory. And so we saw the geologist rock climbing in the last one. So she's going to be the more free, adventurous spirit. And so we start with kind of an archetype, and then at a certain point, the characters hit a critical mass of dialogue, and then they start to write themselves. So by the time we got to the end of Chasing Sunsets, Jay's personality was very predictable. She would throat punch you if you pissed her off. She was very competitive, but she was also sweet. And then Mallory was always the fun one. She would find humor in any situation, and so you would start to see that. Trickle out in her dialogue. We expect the same thing to happen with each of these girls. They'll start with an archetype, and they will develop through a little bit of dialogue into their own characters, and at a certain point, they'll be writing themselves. We'll know exactly what to expect from them, given their previous dialogue.
Ready for the next one?
Yes.
All right, this is from Batman Sid for both of you. Got a question about the change of setting. From your perspective, does that create any new challenges on the art and writing side? By the end of CS, I imagine things must have felt like a well-worn, comfortable pair of shoes. So I'm curious, does your existing workflow carry over smoothly into Firebreak, or does it feel more like learning to ride a new bike?
Um, there are some spoilers in that answer, so I'm going to try to be careful about what I say. One of the reasons that we chose the setting we did was so that we weren't boxed in. Um, One thing I will say about Chasing Sunsets is that we stayed on the yacht until the yacht really wasn't until it felt overdone. Then we were on the island at Bianca's house until the island felt overdone. And then we got out of that and back to Boston for the last couple installments. And so I think changes of setting are something that have been built into our previous workflow, and we won't find a challenge doing it here. But we also became keenly aware of the fact that by the end of Chasing Sunsets, there weren't very many items of clothing. There weren't very many, room and house assets that we hadn't used. There were certainly no office assets we hadn't used. And so we're going into Firebreak with a much better idea of what the asset inventory looks like. And the story design was partially built around mitigating that, so that
Yeah,
if we wanted to use assets that simply could not have been used in Chasing Sunsets, we can't.
yeah, that's about as much as you can say without giving anything away.
Yeah.
Um, as far as the art, the only thing it's doing for me, it's like, again, it's pushing my limits. You can actually see a little bit of the artwork that is what Stoya is showing. There are two images from uh, that we put in there from Firebreak. This one right here that's coming up right now. Um, it's a dark lit scene, but I'm trying to push my limits of how to light it, and it's so far so good. It's coming out really well. I'm really happy with how it's turning out, and so that's my challenge of going into this. And like this next image is again of a darker scene, but just lighting it differently. So those are my challenges.
One thing I wanted to point out is, even though things appear darker in Firebreak, at least from the initial art, that this is just one scene. The whole game isn't dark, so
Right.
don't worry. It's just that we tend to build our inventory in the order that the update is presented in, for continuity reasons, and so it just so happens that this particular scene has a lot of darkness in it.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
all right.
From Xeris for both of you. How did the reception of the CS finale and epilogue compare to your expectations after 5+ years of development? Are there any aspects of the story you wish you had done differently? Any major lessons learned going into Firebreak?
Um, the reception of it has been overwhelmingly positive. People uh, love to see that we completed it, but sad to see it go. Um, and as far as our expectations, I couldn't be more happy from what we put out. Um, it's been a labor of love for both of us, and again, I couldn't have done this without him, without Stoya, and it's uh, any aspects of the story that I would change, nothing. I think this was a beautiful story, a beautiful you know uh, a beautiful game that we put together, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I'm I wouldn't have done anything differently for this. I did, and I think that's what made us work well together. We were both on the same page, and we never fought about anything, and it's all been an easy ride, and it's been a fun ride too.
I would say that the aspects of the story that I would have done differently, I did do differently, meaning that I had enough time to course correct before things. Because an example I'll give is that there was originally not going to ever be a poly ending
Right.
with Jay and Mallory, but when we got to the body shot scene at the club, um, the dynamic between Mallory and Jay had developed so far that I was like, I see a narrow pathway to a poly ending with the two of them. It was originally there was just going to be no way; it was going to be one or the other. And once Jay and Mallory's relationship developed to that point, I no longer felt like I was going to have to break any sense of the ability to suspend disbelief in order for those two to, because in a lot of ways Mallory replaced Tara as Jay's bestie, and that was that was a little bit of subtext that a lot of people didn't pick up on. Was Jay and Tara's relationship was damaged by Tara's relationship with MC, and you don't. The real tragedy of it is that it doesn't become apparent until Jay sort of replaces Tara as her bestie. So that was an example of, and if I had not made that adjustment and allowed for that ending, my answer to this question would have been very differently. It would have been very different today. I would have said I wish that I would have given a way for the two of them to both be part of MC's life at the end of Chasing Sunsets. So for the most part, I think we were able to make those adjustments in flight.
Ready for the next one?
Mhm.
From Sancho, when will the cream pie counter be implemented?
In Chasing Sunsets, that will be in the revamp or the remaster. We'll just go ahead and make a UI element that increments cream pies, I guess. That doesn't seem like it's too difficult from a coding perspective.
There you go. Perfect.
Right?
Shit done.
Right. As for Firebreak, knowing that one will be required from the beginning gives us the opportunity to not have to do a revamp and to get it in there at the ground floor. So
All right, from fucking Lord Tyrannus. There will be a harem end in the new game, right? Right?
so Pocket Sand. The the I'm very down on harem endings for the most part because of the amount of suspension of disbelief you have to do. I know I've addressed this before. Harem's one of those things that sounds fantastic on paper and is a nightmare in uh, in reality. I also understand that people play these games to escape reality, and so there can we meet in the middle on this one? I'm not going to answer that outright here, but there is a non-zero probability that there could be something approaching that as one potential ending. Um, I would add the caveat that one should be careful what they wish for.
That's a good answer.
That was fucking ominous.
Yeah. Perfect.
Anything to add, Ken?
Nope. That's he summed it all up right there.
All right. Probably gonna butcher this from Elaine. Elaine. As the story evolved from chapter to chapter, I'm sure there must have been some script changes and story elements that have been rewritten, some maybe even scrapped completely. You've hinted in the past at Jay actually drowning in the chapter 4 storm for one of the bad endings, but couldn't go through with it. Are there any actual deleted scenes that exist, things that have gone all the way to the rendering stage before being scrapped altogether?
Actually, no, there wasn't, because we actually discussed those right off the bat. But to get off topic here, you actually skipped a question from Zara's skill. We'll go back to that one after
Yeah.
Elaine's. But as far as the bad endings, again, Stoya would pitch them to me. I would kind of go through it in my head, and I would come up with the scene, but then I would have to shoot it down. And because there was a scene, yes, where Jay initially, depending on what path you were on, um, there was going to be some sort of competition or something like that, and you guys were going to go off and do your own thing. But Jay was going to get into trouble, and she was going to die. At that point, I put it in my mind to figure out what the next scene, or what that scene was going to be, and where it was going to happen. And I put it together all in my head, and then I just literally, I honestly started crying, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't make this character dead. I cannot make this amount of effort that I put into this character. I can't kill him. And that's when we decided that we're not going to do anything that killing off characters, because that was just too much.
There is there's the argument also that it's a bit tropey at this point. We characters can die, but we didn't want to make that the centerpiece of why a character was memorable.
Right.
And I think that's been done probably better than we could have done it by other devs. So the in fact, I will say that there's at least one project in development where I know that and I'm not going to even hint at which one it is, but there's going to be a death that I think is going to surprise a lot of people, and we're watching that with great interest to see how that ends up playing with the fan base. But
Yeah.
yeah, oof, it's a ballsy flex.
It is a very ballsy flex, and it's like, wow, you're gonna do that? Okay. Hopefully it goes well.
The last thing I want to touch on with that question is render time is very expensive. So for those of you who don't know, it's not just the amount of time. My wife was pointing out because there was about 4 weeks between the last render of Chasing Sunsets and the first render of Firebreak, and so our household went an entire month without rendering a single image for the first time in 5 years. My wife pointed out, "Hey, what's going on? Our electric bill was only 1,000 kilowatt hours." And I'm like, "What is it normally?" She goes, "It's normally 3,400." So just rendering for a game, our electric consumption goes from 1,000 kilowatt hours per month to 3,400 per month. That's insane that my
Oh
my
yeah.
PC is drawing that much electric. So for us to get to the point to where we fully rendered out a scene and it wouldn't be used, we're very, very careful about what gets rendered. In fact, this first scene for Firebreak has required more re-renders than any scene that we've done in recent memory. And I know we're gonna feel it. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be it's been a big pull from an electric perspective.
And like for me, when I was, I guess, first starting out, and my electric bill when I was living in my apartment was fine. It was good. It wasn't. I was, they would send me my bill and tell you, it will show you on a graph where you compare to like your neighbors or some shit like that. But now my
Yeah,
electric bill is so much worse. It's just like, okay, your electric consumption is fair. I mean, you are consuming more power than a lot of people around you. And that's just my dev rig. I literally have no lights on in my apartment. I try to keep my AC set at a certain temperature during the day, and then at night it just I drop it down, whatever. I try to minimize as much power consumption as possible. But this takes up a lot of juice.
it does. All right.
All right, so we got to go back to Zara's
I'm
question.
pretty sure I read that Stoya's, Xeris's, how did the reception of CS finale and epilogue compare to your expectations after 5+ years? Or did I?
Yeah, you did that one.
Yeah.
The next one would be Zara skills.
Zara skill.
Zara skill. Yeah.
I
It's, Kent thought I skipped over Xeris.
no,
Oh, okay.
Zara. I said Zara skill. Sorry.
No, Zara skill's the next one. We just did Elaine.
Right, but you skipped over. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, got it.
No,
We skipped over Zara.
I haven't read Paladin or Wolfnats. I just read Elaine. So Zara,
Are
You
you
don't
the-
see.
unless I have it, unless you have a different list and you sent me the wrong one.
I don't think so.
I'm looking at the questions for the devs in the dev stream. I'm actually making check marks next to the ones that we've already answered.
I've got a
Oh.
CSV file I'm going off of from Stoya.
Oh, okay.
Oh. So did we
do you
miss one?
So okay, so now I know what you're talking about because I privately messaged Xeris. Do you want me to read Xeris's other question?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will grab it. He linked it to me. And then why don't you? Can you?
I'll read out Zara's. Okay, so hello, Kent and Stoya.
Is Zara's? Why do you come to choose to make?
Yes.
Okay, I can definitely do that one. Just let me get through. So Xeris, how many times have George and Lisa hooked up asking for Wolfie?
Oh yeah, I didn't put that in the because I assumed that was a joke. No,
Xeris did not feel slighted, for the record.
Okay, yeah, just to clarify, in the canon, in my head canon, Lisa and George have never hooked up.
Same.
Okay, so are we ready? Are we ready for Zara's
Yes.
Yeah.
now?
Yes.
Since you're following along in the dev chat, if there's one in here that is not, or if you see one, Kent, that's not in the list that I have, let me know, and I'll just start following the dev stream. So Zara skill. Sorry about all this, guys. Why did you come to choose to make some characters from Chasing Sunset into allies in Firebreak? And so how did you come to choose Lisa and Tara? How difficult is it to include already set characters into a new game without having to change the character personality and all? And finally, do you fear the reaction of players about that? I've heard sometimes seeing Tara become an ally as loved how you... Holy shit. I have a hard time seeing Tara becoming an ally as I loved how you made her in CS, and I hope to be proven wrong.
This was a big thing when we first started. I started making renders of Tara and Lisa before CS was even started. We essentially, Tara and Lisa were never supposed to be in Chasing Sunsets. But people were adamant about these characters wanting them to be in the game. They said, we need them in the game. We need them in the game. So we're just like, okay, we'll bring them into the game. We'll see what we can do. We'll put them as characters. They won't be love interests, but we'll just try to put them in there. So that's how it became about. And people are just saying, why aren't they love interests? Why aren't they love interests? And then we said, okay, how about this? We'll put them in the game. We'll introduce them. But in our next game, we'll make them the love interests. And people were just like, okay, cool. That's fine with us. As far as with the player reactions, yes, I've already gotten DMs regarding this, and it's all about it's all, and people know what I'm talking about. They think that this is okay, they had sex with the MC from this one, they're going to be having sex with this one, they're cucking the MC from Chasing Sunsets. Well, no, I'm sorry, they're not. Is because it's, God forbid, a female character has a life outside of another man, and we're, as far as how we're navigating that, I think we're doing a really good job, and I think it's bringing them in as love interests is what people wanted, so that's what we're gonna do. And
just to expand on that a little bit, Lisa is going to be very different towards the MC in Firebreak if she had a relationship with MC in Chasing Sunsets. That's one of the variables that's being imported. So if she's still coming down from her breakup with MC and Chasing Sunsets and Firebreak, she's not going to be, her relationship with the MC and Firebreak will be different. if they never had a relationship in CS, she's probably going to be more receptive to something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Lisa's very easy to integrate with the Firebreak story. Terra it's a little bit more challenging because because she is much better fleshed out in Chasing Sunsets, and her loot scene is the only unavoidable one in Chasing Sunsets. So anybody who's played Chasing Sunsets and plays Firebreak has already had sex with Terra as the MC in CS. And so I recognize what a challenge that is from a writing perspective. And I'm looking forward to it because, we've only seen very little of how Terra really has weathered that entire event from Chasing Sunsets at the surface level. And in Firebreak, we're going to be able to explore what the cost was to her emotionally from that, and what it's. That said, if a player character has zero interest in Terra romantically, because of that, they'll have the opportunity to avoid continuing or initiating a romantic relationship with her. That agency will be there. So nobody will be forced to have sex with Terra that absolutely can't stomach it because of what her role was in Chasing Sunsets. That said, the reality is if you end up in a scenario with 8 women, um, many of whom have milestones in their life, like achieving colonel in the Space Force, the idea that none of those women have ever slept with another man is ridiculous, and we're not gonna carry that that fantasy forward that all 8 women are virgins.
Yeah, and also pointing out what Elaine says, that at some point you have to ignore what the players ask for, and we know that now as we've developed. But this was like early on when we were just like, okay, so we wanted kind of to make people happy, we wanted to bring them in, but now we know that we're making a game. It's going to be our story, and if people like what we're telling, then cool, come on along for the ride. We'll more than happy to bring you along for it. If they don't like it, then uh, okay, that's perfectly fine. You don't like what we're doing, that's cool.
Yep.
So
It's there's plenty of other products out there. I mean, we don't want to push people away, but by the same token, you're never going to make everybody happy.
right.
So, all right, next one.
On to the next one. All righty. So this next one's from Paladin. Kent, is that in line with what you're seeing?
Yep.
Okay. Bit of a long one. Were either of you surprised by the popularity of some of the supporting characters in Chasing Sunsets, most notably Terra, Bianca, Lisa, and Erica? Other than time constraints, was any thought given to giving any of those characters a happier ending with CS's MC? At what point did Terra and Lisa get considered as allies for the next project? Did Bianca and Erica get considered? I had visions of Erica and MC running the ski lodge with their 6 blonde-headed children. That's really cute, I'm sorry. Did the thought of more developed endings for the support cast ever cross your mind, or was it always going to be limited to the endings we got? Was your limit to 2 primary love interests decided on to keep tighter focus on your first project? And is the expansion of love interest for Firebreak a way to push beyond a tighter focus for the second project?
That's he pretty much answered it at the end there. Since this was our first project, we didn't want to like bite off more than we could chew, because we were both new to this, and having multiple love interests was kind of daunting, at least to me. I just the amount of sheer work that has to go into doing this as a first project was probably not a good idea to have a large amount of love interests. Now, some people can do that, and they're perfectly fine with that, and I give them all props for wanting to do that. But for us, it was kind of scary. So we decided 2 love interests. We can have side girls and have some fun with them. And but now since we know what's entailed, through that, now that we have learned and grown from that, we can add more girls now. And I believe in Stoya's writing that he can manage that now. He knows what he's got to do and how and what to expect. So we're not kind of going at this blind anymore.
A lot of the questions were actually answered in the previous question, right? So when did we decide with Lisa and Tara? It was pretty close to the beginning of
Right.
Chasing Sunsets. That they, um, uh, as far as Erica goes, Erica has no role in in Firebreak planned at the moment. She's the only one that doesn't. Um, even
Well,
Bianca, even Bianca will have, you know, a role. I'm not gonna get too into it here, but we'll see Bianca again. And the idea is that the ones that we see in Firebreak are the ones that either got hired into Polygene after Chasing Sunsets, or were already with Polygene when Chasing Sunsets ended. So clearly, Lisa is connected to Polygene. Bianca got hired on at the end, and at some point, Terra must be connected to Polygene at some point. And so that's the only one that didn't get a canon nod in Chasing Sunsets as being brought into the company. But we'll cover that. We'll cover what happened there with Firebreak. So that's the nexus. Erica, I get it. Uh, and Erica was always intended to be a um, what's the word I'm looking for? A placeholder. Because one of the challenges with writing a slow burn like Chasing Sunsets was that we knew it was going to be a while before MC sealed the deal with Jay or Mallory. And so, in order to be delivering a lewd game, we had to provide options earlier in the game to do so. And so, thus, Linda and Erica were born. And they were always intended to be short side dalliances for the MC. And because of the way the story progressed, it just became easy to have them make a surprise reappearance at the end. And that was the reason for the Erica situation. She was never intended to be a love interest. She was never intended to be more than a side encounter, and in the end, that's what she ended up being. It's unfortunate because she's fun, she's cute, and we'll always have. Anytime we do a side girl type situation, we recognize that there will always be a subset of the fan base that really likes that side girl and wishes she was more. All right.
next.
Okie dokie. Sorry if this has been answered. As the development progressed, did you upgrade hardware? If upgraded, did any of this cause issues? Did you upgrade programs such as RenPy or any other programs, and did they cause issues? There have been this may have been asked before when writing does. Holy shit! My eyes are. When writing does the flow not seem to be there as intended? How did you resolve this? Also, did any changes cause you to change renders? Crossovers, is it pretty easy to work with other devs in the process?
A lot of yeses in this one. Yes, we've upgraded hardware 4 times now since the beginning. Typically, we always do the GPU refresh. We've updated our tools as they've as they've required upgrades. It's creating a bit of an issue for us now because Kent is still on 4090s and I'm on 5090s. So I render in DAS 2025 and he poses and builds the scenes in DAS 2024 because the CUDA version that's compatible um, with the 50 series GPUs is no longer compatible with the 40 series. We've only had one other occasion where the GPU upgrade forced a behavior change with DAS, and that was with the 3090s. when we upgraded from 2080s to 3090s. We
1080
had a
for me.
brief, we had a brief period where the DAS didn't work with the new GPUs, but every other time it's been pretty smooth. So we don't know when it's going to be resolved, because right now DAS 2025 is unusable for Kent in posing space because of with bugs in how the viewport is displayed. It's choppy. He's unable to move smoothly in the workspace. So that's created a lot of problems for us, and we're hoping that and we're almost a year out from the introduction of the 5090s. DAS has taken their sweet time catching up to the hardware this time. I've never seen anything like it. So I'm hoping that it doesn't become a huge workflow problem for us.
Yeah.
As for the rest of the questions, writing does not flow.
When writing, comma, does the flow not seem to be there as intended?
We don't really run into that a whole lot, do we, Kent? There are times where we've rewritten a few things. Typically, once the art is done, if possible, we'll make changes to the writing so that we don't have to re-render the art. Um,
Yeah, I
there are
touched on that
cases where
earlier.
Yeah, there are cases where that's impossible. Sometimes, one of the most common things that happens is supplemental renders, where we'll hit a spot where a transition doesn't seem as smooth as it should, or something gets lost in the translation, and so Kent will kick in a couple of supplemental renders to fill in that gap. That usually comes out in beta testing or shortly after release. We'll sometimes add a little bit of supplemental art in. But otherwise, we really haven't had tool issues. It's just DAS keeping up with the hardware, and and keeping our hardware up to speed. Right now, like I said, I'm rendering on 5090s. They're very, very fast. I love them.
Yeah, and I've got my 5090 just sitting on my desk waiting to be put in my machine. But I can't because I can't use 2025.
Yep.
So,
All right. Just a
as
couple
far as
questions left.
well, yeah, but also about the crossovers. Crossovers actually is kind of like hit and miss, depending on the developer.
I was an
Drifty
asshole
being,
to work with.
yeah,
Yes.
Drifty, who is in here. Hi, Drifty. How you doing? He's an awesome dev, and we wanted to do a crossover with him, and it just, no, some devs are really receptive to it, and we can throw them into the universe, and they kind of can, or the universes can align, and it's just that we kind of pitch ideas to the other devs, and we create dialogue and send it off, and is that okay if we can use this character in here? Would that be okay with you? And vice versa. And it works out great. Like I said, I haven't had any troubles working with other devs, with other games.
The only time it
So yeah,
becomes challenging a little bit, like with Charybdis and Eternum, right, where the art style is
yeah,
different.
exactly.
We can't really pull his characters into our game. He can't pull ours into his. So we have to do things like put an advertisement for the game up on in the computer store or something like that. Drifty put a nod to Bianca in his
New game.
um, in his new game, but also in the game guide. So and asked for some input there. Artemis in particular lined up very well with our near future sort of setting. So and Digi's just been fantastic to work with. We love the dynamic between Peanut and Artemis, and we hope that it's not the last collaboration that we see between Peanut and Artemis. Clearly, especially in the poly ending with Mallory and Peanut, you get the impression that Peanut's off to do some big things. So I'm hoping that circumstances conspire to let Kent and I explore that with new content at some point.
Yeah. For well, Wolf, yeah, I wouldn't say stay away from them, but in order to use them effectively, you would have to be in DAS 2025, and that's still an alpha. It's still not an actual release candidate yet. The problems that I've seen in it, working in it, is if uh, uh, I mean, I can probably show you later, like after we get done with all the questions, I can actually bring it up and I can show you what I'm experiencing in 2025 just to show you. But it's the workspace is it stutters for me where I can't move around fluidly. So that's the main problem. So until that gets resolved, I cannot upgrade my system to the 5090s.
There are other issues with DAS 2025 as well. The scripts that a lot of us are dependent on, like Mesh Grabber, even though DAS Premium has come out with replacements for some of them, some of the ones that we count on aren't there. We can't use limb stick, where before you could, fasten a character's hand to the mattress and it wouldn't move. You become dependent on scripts like that to make your art work properly, and DAS 2025 doesn't use third-party scripts at all yet.
Yeah. I guess there was a thread made by Ace, I think, was the next question. I don't know if you got that one.
I do not have that one, so if you want to go ahead and read it.
He made a thread, and it says, so it's been confirmed that the new game will not be centered around any controversial topics such as cess themes. So will there be any content in Firebreak that appeals to those with such kinks, such as roleplay, or for example?
Yes.
So yeah, there will be other kinks, brought in. If I deem
and role play, yeah. I mean, like I said, we can't do incest, but nothing says that that maybe the whole thing doesn't still turn Terra on, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
So yeah, there's opportunities there.
All right. What's your next one?
Next one for me is from Volus.
Okay.
Stoya,
Yep.
what's the
Correct.
biggest? Alrighty.
Yeah, he had 3 questions, and I just broke them up into. Okay.
Yeah, why don't you over the other ones that were just like, no, I'm kidding. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, Stoya, what is the biggest writing challenge unique to adult visual novels that you didn't anticipate when you started? If you had to name one thing, who influenced your writing the most?
I would say the biggest challenge is adding a psychological element to the lewd scenes, because there's a reason that we're playing an AVN rather than watching porn. Men are visual creatures, and so there's a lot of it is delivered through the art for the male audience anyway. But I always want there to be a subtext or something that makes the sex kinky or interesting, that that appeals to people that think a little bit deeper maybe. A good example would be the Fiona scene where she's getting revenge on her husband for cheating on her, and it gets completely out of hand. He gets a lot more than he bargained for. He basically agreed to allow her to step out once to make it even, and then she just gets completely liberated by the entire thing and leaves him. I wanted there to be more to it. In the Jay and Tara scene, the subtext was that Tara was using her experience with Jay and helping her deal with her feelings for MC, and trying to flip the script and do the same for MC in hopes of keeping him there, but then having to come to grips with the fact that she had a repressed attraction for him too, and then to second guess herself: did she really do this to help her friend, or did she do it for selfish reasons? That was to me, that's the biggest challenge. I always want there to be another element to it. With Bianca, it's the element of rewarding the MC for helping her feel attractive and desired again, and defending her against her ex. And also the fact that she's really into the whole pool boy dynamic, and wanting to have that young that young dick. So uh, that from a writing perspective, that's the biggest challenge. How do I make this so it's not just a lewd scene? And who influenced my writing the most? Naughty Captain, hands down. Um, I after playing Somerset, realizing that I was caring about the outcome, and that the sex was almost secondary to my interest in the game. That's what made me think maybe there's something to this. It's not a niche. There's there's a there's something to strive for in development other than just the sex aspect.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Kent, for you. Kent, what's your philosophy
Okay.
on showing versus suggesting? How do you decide what to show explicitly versus what to leave to the imagination? Do you storyboard scenes or do you work more intuitively? How do you plan scene flow?
I think you have to find a balance of both a little. But I'm a big proponent of suggesting. I like imagination. I like people to, because that's what a lot of novels do. Like if when you read a book, you have to build the universe in your head. You got to build the scenes in your mind and to what you're reading, and it's going to be different for everybody. Showing lewd content, and I like doing it, but then I don't, because sometimes it just doesn't. Uh, uh, for lack of a better term, it just doesn't work well. The dick doesn't look good going into the vagina. The vagina is not, the morphs are bad or whatever like that, and you got to do like post work on them or whatnot. um I can show, like I said, I like to just have a balance. I can show a little bit of it, like maybe just to start showing penetration, and then maybe show them, no genitalia, and them just embracing each other, and you know what's going on. So I think that's where I go with between showing and suggesting. As far as storyboarding scenes, I don't really do that. I do kind of work more intuitively. What happens is Stoya gives me dialogue, and then I ask him, okay, so where's this taking place? And he gives me the basic scene setup. Okay, this is taking place in a bedroom or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so that gives me a starting point. And then what I would do, I would just read through the dialogue and pretty much act it out in my head. Like, how are the characters going to be talking? How are they going to be positioning themselves? Like, where are they sitting? Are they standing? What? And Story does that as well. He also puts in little notations of like, Jay laying on the bed, uh, reading or filling out her diary or some shit. And then I would just go along with that. The sex scenes were like that in the beginning, but then Stoya started seeing. I just started coming up with ideas in my head and making side content to kind of get out of a mold of vanilla of just regular sex scenes, and I would share them with him, and he would be like, this actually works. Why don't you just create the scene, create the sex scene, use your imagination, and I'll just write the dialogue and throw it in there to fill in what you've done. And
So
that's
we
what
have a
we've
good
been.
mix of that. Yeah.
Right, and then again, it works well. In our we did that for the later chapters, and it kind of like, again, it kind of frees up Stoya from dialogue right off the bat of the sex scene, and but when he can just fill it in later, and that just leaves my mind a little bit open to not be constrained by just a certain amount of dialogue and be like, okay, so I got to have a render for this. I got to, okay, so I got to move the camera. Got to be in a doggy style here, and then got to be in a missionary here, then got to be in cowgirl here. Now I can actually just kind of have more of an organic, I guess, sex scene. So that's how I do it.
All right. So for both of you, what advice would you guys give to someone starting out in the AVN development? Starting out in AVN development about the one thing you wish you'd known before you began?
I've got an easy one. If you're doing it on your own, this doesn't apply. But if you decide to work with somebody, um, more than anything else, that compatibility has to be on lockdown. There can't be any daylight between your vision. You have to both be willing to stay in your lanes, and you have to have personalities that complement each other. You have to respect each other's work ethic and both be invested. Because as soon as it's just like a marriage or anything else. If one side of that starts to feel unbalanced, it's not going to work. So my advice is either do it on your own or be 100% sure of your partnership because
Right.
it doesn't take a lot for a partnership to fall apart, and we have been blessed. I mean, we just can't believe how lucky we've gotten that because if I had a nickel for every partnership that I've seen fall apart since we started developing, we wouldn't need Patreon.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with that on that. But being a single dev is again knowing what you're getting into and planning it out, knowing that what is all entailed with writing, coding, art, marketing. It's a big thing. So you really have to take a step back and knowing what you're getting into, knowing what what are the I guess elements of just putting something like this together. It's not just you make art and throw it into a program and be like, here you go. It's a lot of work. But if you enjoy it and if you do it at a decent pace which you're comfortable at, don't overstretch. And again, and I've told this to a lot of new devs, and this was told to me by Philly, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So you have to put in the work before you see anything good come out of it. So it's going to take a lot of time and effort to put into until you start seeing a viable return on what you've invested into this. So be patient and just stick to your guns and make the story that you want to make, and people will come to play your game.
From a marketing perspective, the best thing I can offer is respect your customer base. If you go to Steam and I understand, I've heard rumors anyway that Steam is going to end early access. But if you go to Steam with something that isn't anywhere close to a full product, you only get one chance to make that impression. Right. So we got to the end of chapter 5, which was the halfway point of our story. And we put a full 50% of Chasing Sunsets on Steam when we first launched. And I'm so glad we did because, other devs have taken the season approach where they'll do what amounts to 3 or 4 updates and they'll call that a season and sell it as a standalone product. I get the sense that that is kind of damaging the perception of adult games on Steam because people feel kind of rope a doped along on how they get their content and then having to buy more. Just understand how the people that are consuming your content feel about how you're selling it. Because if you burn them, or if they feel like you haven't been honest, or that you're drip feeding them content and charging them more and more, I feel like you can never recover that.
Yeah, that's another thing. Bat also said it in chat is have a good support network. Again, reach out to other devs.
Mhm.
If and there are a lot of us out there that would love to help people again be in this space. Um, as far as and also communicate with your audience, communicate with your patrons, communicate with them. Um, and
Especially early on, and
yeah,
until you've developed that trust. I hope that people never really thought that our product went dead or that we had abandoned it. But that doesn't happen after your first update. It's going to take 3 or 4 updates before the trust is there that the next one is in flight.
Right.
And communication is one way to stay ahead of that. That said, that's why we have a community manager now, is because our communication sucked.
Yeah.
I think that ends all of the scheduled questions.
We got a few more in
Okay.
the questions for Dev. Did you want to go through them?
Yeah.
We can hang out a little bit longer, and then I think Kent's going to hop into a screen share or something.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to show something really quick on the DAS 2025. Says, would you ever use the MC and his two girls and other stories, even cameos?
Yes.
Yeah, that is a plan. Can't go into much detail, but yeah, we do plan on doing some more cameos and everything like that.
Yep.
There's another one. Future cameos in your game. How about cameos of your characters in other games? Actually, yes. We are going to have a couple more cameos in other games. I'm not sure when. I know that
I know of one for sure that's in flight.
Right. Again, Drifty, who's also in the chat, with his game Euphoria, Bianca was featured in his game. So that was a cameo that's already in the already there. As far as anyone's, there are other ones in other games where there are references. In Batman's game, Moonlight, one of his characters is a big Chasing Sunsets fan, and she has a poster of Jay on her wall. So that's a cameo, I guess you would call it.
And Single again, Jay and Mallory both make a cameo.
Mm-hmm. And also in Origin Story, there was alluding to since it was like a superpowers type game. There was a guy who can his game can go into other worlds and find stories for movies and bring them back or whatever like that. So he saw Chasing Sunsets, and they're making a Chasing Sunsets in that world, and they had actors that were going to play Jay and Dempsey and everything like that.
Jay has a great cameo in Summer Scent,
right?
where basically her observation of another brother sister situation help shape her acceptance of what she feels for MC in Chasing Sunsets. And there's a couple of references. If you played both games, you would recognize both sides of the references because they kind of. But if you haven't played Summer Scent, they just won't make sense. So.
Yeah. All right. The next question was, hey guys, do you write it as it goes, or do you have the story already written?
We have the broad strokes written from before project inception, basically. And then we dial it in with each chapter. We know what has to happen in each chapter. And so things get dialed in there. And then sometimes subplots get developed out of that dialing in. So, for example, when we first came up with the concept of Chasing Sunsets, Bandit didn't exist, right? We knew the Mallory character, but as part of dialing in Mallory, part of her tragic childhood as a foster child involved the death of her dog. And so to me, just killing the dog off felt gratuitous. We knew that there was going to be a payoff later if you were if you were close enough to Mallory to help make that wrong right. And so that was a subplot that developed out of dialing in Mallory. So that does happen. Chekhov's Bandit, exactly.
All right, and all right, this one's from Numa. So not sure if I can still ask the question in here or their line, but I'll give it a shot anyways. It says, are you aware that that a quote unquote location called Firebreak is basically what the whole DLC for Horizon Zero Dawn is about, which came out in November 2017? They probably haven't protected it, but are you afraid that Sony or Guerrilla is going to sue the shit out of you once you're making, in their eyes, a porn game?
So no. So the DLC we're talking about for Zero Dawn.
Yes.
So Firebreak was. What's interesting is the expression Firebreak is
It's a term.
applicable to, it's a term, and it's applicable to both games for, as you'll see, similar reasons. I'm not worried about it because the the name Firebreak itself, I don't believe is copyrighted.
Right.
Um, but if we called it Horizon Zero Dawn Firebreak, yes.
Yes.
Um,
That would not be good. So no, I don't think we're not in. We don't think. Yeah, it's kind of funny though. Like when we played it, Story and I were just like, oh, they got a location called Firebreak. Oh, that's cool.
yeah, yeah. We do a lot of pained laughter in our chat.
Yeah, exactly.
And surprisingly, a game recently released that got a little too close for comfort to what we're doing with Firebreak. When we first saw it drop, we're like, "What the hell?" Is somebody in our dev chat? I mean, it was so close at first thought. We were like, "What the hell?" And this actually happened to us with Chasing Sunsets too. When we were in the early development, a week before we released our prologue, Sunshine Love dropped, and I know a lot of people don't see the resemblance between Sunshine Love and Chasing Sunsets because they're very different stories. But the childhood meeting of the stepsister and brother was pretty. It was way too close for our comfort. We were both just like, "What the hell?" And so we had something very similar happen with Firebreak the other day. And now that we've looked at it closer, we think we're in the Sunshine Love territory here, where yeah, there's some superficial things that are kind of similar, but I don't think it's going to be an issue in the long term.
Yeah, then there's also an actual game called Firebreak on Steam. I don't know what it entails, but I saw it.
Yeah, and so if worst comes to worst, then it's a working title, and we release under a slightly different one. But I'm not too worried about it. The Firebreak it refers to something very specific in the game, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. We don't want to go on Steam with another game that's called Firebreak if they're already selling one called Firebreak. So
yeah,
we'll just play it by ear and see what happens.
yeah, I suggest you look at it, but I don't think it's like the stories don't overlap at all. So
No, I know, but if you got two different games with the exact same title, that's problematic.
right. So yeah, I'll look that up first,
Yeah.
just in case. Real quick, Lando in chat says, "Is it too late to post a question for the devs?" No, you can still ask one if you want to, real quick.
This will be the
But
last one, though.
But Rodney said, well, there's
Oh, okay.
Is Lisa J's bio mom her egg used? No.
Wait, one more time?
Is Lisa J's bio mom?
No.
No.
But
Jay's biological mom passed away.
But Sarah might be.
We don't know that.
All I'm saying is that there's a non-zero chance that
Yeah.
that the DNA test got screwed up at the lab, and Jay is actually Emceed's half sister.
Yeah, we don't know that yet.
But we don't know that for sure, Patreon.
Yeah. Exactly.
See what we did there? That goes back to the second question about how do you insulate yourself against industry changes?
Yep.
All right. Well, with that said, I am going to go rewater myself. If you want to do your screen share and show what the DAS 2025 fresh hell is and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I'll pop back on. And
are we good to end the recording, guys?
We are
yeah.
good to end the recording.